Have you ever shared something deeply personal with someone you care about, only to watch them suddenly pull away? You know that moment. You finally work up the courage to be vulnerable. You tell them what you've been holding back. And instead of bringing you closer together, they go cold. It happened to you recently, didn't it? You opened up to her. Not because you were trying to impress her or manipulate the situation, but because something deep inside whispered, she's different. She'll actually understand. You expected that beautiful moment of connection, that relief when someone truly sees you, that gentle softening that happens when two people share real truth. But instead, everything changed. She grew distant, colder, quieter. Her eyes stopped holding you the way they did yesterday. Her body felt miles away, even when she was right there. She wasn't angry. She wasn't upset. Just completely closed off. And your mind started racing. Didn't it? Did I go too deep too fast? Was I too much? Maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut. In that moment, you made the mistake we all make. You assumed her withdrawal meant rejection. You thought she couldn't handle what you offered, that she simply didn't care. But what if I told you? Her coldness has nothing to do with you. What if your vulnerability actually touched something in her she's been trying to bury for years? What if, by opening up to her, you accidentally awakened her oldest, most protective defense mechanism? Carl Jung understood this when he said, "What we do not make conscious will continue to control us." And here's what most people don't understand about some women, especially those who've been carrying emotional weight for far too long. Your openness isn't always an invitation for closeness. Sometimes, it's a painful reminder of every single time someone needed more from her than she was ready to give. She doesn't pull away because she doesn't care about you. She pulls away because something inside her body actually flinches when someone leans in too emotionally. Not because she's cold-hearted, but because she's exhausted. Let me explain what's really happening inside her mind. To understand this, we need to talk about something Carl Jung discovered about the feminine psyche. He called it the mother archetype. That part of women that naturally nurtures, protects, and heals others. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's powerful. It's sacred. But here's the shadow side that most people miss. When a woman is constantly seen as the healer, she starts to forget something crucial, that she's also allowed to be held. She stops being a person in people's eyes. She becomes a function, a role to fill. So when you open up to her, not from a place of presence and connection, but from pain and need, when you're not really trying to connect with her, but hoping she'll save you, it doesn't draw her closer. It triggers every painful memory she's been carrying. She's lived this story before. You see, there was the guy who turned her into his personal therapist, the friend who poured all their problems into her, but never once asked how she was doing. Maybe even a parent who only reached for her when they needed emotional support. So when you come to her with trembling hands and heavy words, she doesn't hear what you think she's hearing. You think she hears, "I trust you enough to be vulnerable." But what she actually hears is, "Hold this pain for me." Again. And here's the thing. Even if your intention is completely pure, her body doesn't know that. Because trauma doesn't ask for logic. It just responds. Sometimes, your honesty doesn't land as beautiful connection. It lands as emotional weight she's expected to carry. Jung understood this perfectly. He said that when we project onto others the parts of ourselves we haven't owned, we actually reduce them. We stop seeing who they really are. We only see what we need from them. So when you open up without emotional containment, without being grounded in yourself first, you risk doing something you don't even realize. You project your inner child onto her, hoping she'll become the mother you never had. And if she's spent years healing everyone except herself, she'll feel it immediately. Not in her mind, but in her nervous system. There's a tightness in her chest, a quiet voice that whispers, "This feels familiar, too familiar." And without even meaning to, she pulls away, not to hurt you, but to remember who she is, underneath all the roles everyone else needs her to play. Now, here is what I need you to understand. She is not being cold. She is protecting something, not just herself, but something deeper, something fragile, something that took her years to rebuild after it was completely shattered. You did not do anything wrong. You just got close enough to awaken what once cost her everything. Here's what most people never realize about many women. Closeness does not always feel like safety. Sometimes it feels like pressure, like responsibility, like losing herself all over again. So when you open up, and she does not soften the way you expected, do not assume she is disconnected from you. Assume she is overwhelmed, not by your pain, but by that old part of her that once believed being loved meant becoming someone else's emotional shelter. She has learned, through painful experience, that being there for someone often came at the brutal cost of not being there for herself. So now, when someone leans in too much, too quickly, she leans back, not out of rejection, but out of self-regulation. Carl Jung had a term for this: the return of the shadow, not because she is hiding something dark, but because she is finally meeting the part of herself that always said yes when she desperately wanted to say no. The part that kept holding on even when her hands were shaking. The part that kept listening even when her heart was screaming for someone to listen to her. And now, she is learning to choose differently. She is discovering that silence can actually be self-respect. That creating space can be an act of self-love. That not responding right away is not cruelty. It is her way of finding clarity. So when she pulls away after you open up to her, please know this: she is not shutting you out. She is just making sure she does not shut herself down in the process. Now, I know what is happening in your mind right now. You shared something real with her, and she pulled away. Every instinct you have is probably screaming, "Fix this. Say more. Do more. Win her back." But Carl Jung would offer you a completely different path, a quieter one that actually works. He called it holding the container. Because here's the thing: sometimes it is not about what you say next. It is about what you do not react to. When she pulls away, when she seems cold, when her silence feels absolutely unbearable, your presence becomes the medicine, but only if it is stable, grounded, unmoved by her withdrawal. The immature masculine panics. His mind races. She is slipping away. I need to prove I am worthy. I need to do something, anything to get her back. But the mature masculine, he pauses. He breathes. And he stays still. Not out of apathy, not out of indifference, but out of deep respect. Because he understands something crucial. She is not a problem that needs to be fixed. She is a person who is returning to her own center. And this is the part most men completely miss. She does not need you to pull her back toward you. She needs to feel that your world does not collapse when she steps away. Because that feeling of your stability, that is what actually makes her feel safe. Real safety is not about always being close to each other. It is about knowing you can hold your own emotional ground while she finds hers. And that kind of containment, that stillness, that unshakable presence, that is what allows the feminine to soften again. Carl Jung believed that true relationship only begins when both people have the space to return to themselves, not because they are escaping from each other, but because they are allowed to stay whole, even in connection. And a man who can sit with her silence, without spiraling into panic or anxiety, he does not lose her. Instead, he gives her something she never knew she was allowed to receive. A love that does not consume her. A love that actually lets her breathe. So when she seems cold to you, I want you to remember this. What you're witnessing isn't her distance. It's her defense. A quiet rebellion against every chapter of her story where she gave too much, too soon, to people who asked without staying. Her silence isn't punishment. It's preservation. Her retreat isn't rejection. It's a return to her boundaries, her breath, her voice. And the truth is, she may not even realize why your words unsettled her so deeply. All she knows is something inside her whispered, "Not again." And for the first time in a long time, she listened. Not to hurt you, but to protect the part of herself that's still healing from all the times she didn't listen to that voice. This is the feminine reclaiming space. Not to create distance from you, but to finally feel herself again. And if you're the kind of man who can stay steady through this, who doesn't collapse into neediness, who honors her pause instead of resenting it, then maybe you're not just a witness to her healing. You're part of it. But let's be honest. Even if she never returns, even if her silence stretches longer than your longing can bear, please remember this. You didn't do anything wrong by opening up. You were honest. You were human. And you chose connection over control. That too is growth. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. So if this moment feels like loss, look inward. Maybe what's pulling away isn't just her. Maybe it's the old version of you, the one that chased instead of trusted, begged instead of breathed, feared silence instead of learning to listen to it. And if you can sit in that stillness, if you can hold your truth without needing hers right away, then you've already stepped into a new kind of love. Not one that takes, but one that understands. Not one that saves, but one that truly sees. She may seem cold to you right now, but maybe, just maybe, she's warming up to the idea that love can feel like freedom instead of fire. And that kind of love, that's worth waiting for. That's worth growing for. Because when a woman finally feels safe enough to be herself around you, all of herself, including the parts that need space, that's when real intimacy begins. That's when you stop being just another person she has to manage, and you become someone she can actually trust. And trust, is the foundation of everything beautiful that comes next.